Lesson 12, it goes over how to use brushes, and I'm going to go through and show you a nice little way of creating a custom brush. So you can do this a couple different ways. One, you can create a vector drawing and turn that into a brush, or you can use vectors that you would find off of a free vector website or a website and be able to use those as well. We're going to create our own. I'm going to show you how to do it one way, and then if you want to play with it and create your own, I highly encourage that. Instead of just creating mine, I would love for you to try something new and kind of play around with it and, you know, make something of your own. Okay, so there is not going to be any files for you to download. We're just going to go ahead and create this from a new design. So we're going to come over to Illustrator, and I'm going to go to Create New. Now, the way this works is whenever you're making this brush, we're going to make it a little bit larger to start with and then shrink it down. When you're working with a brush, however you save it, that is like the base. So that would be like the 1 pixel or the 1 point brush. So if you go too big, then to shrink it down kind of works weird, because then you have to get into the like 0.25s and stuff like this. So you want that brush to start off a little bit smaller, and then you can make it bigger or you could make it smaller as you're working with it. Okay, so we're going to come right here to you're going to come right in here, and I'm just going to go ahead and name this lesson 12, and I'm going to just start off with a 4-inch by 4-inch box, just to make it a little bit smaller but big enough that you can really draw in. And you just need the one artboard, and I'm going to do create. Now you could even do this if you're working on a project and you decide to turn something into a brush after you've already started in a drawing. You can do that as well. So it's really up to you how you do it. Okay, so what we're going to start off with for my example is I'm just going to grab my rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a little rectangle here. I'm sorry, a little square. And I'm going to change the color of it to this lightest orange that's right here. There's a good set of oranges right here for us to use, so I'm just going to use these. And I'm going to go ahead and remove my stroke. Okay, then I'm just going to grab it and copy it. I'm not worried about whether or not they're perfect. If they're not, we can always use the align tool afterwards. So I'm just going to kind of keep grabbing and pulling them down. I'm more worried about getting them just to line up this way, like so they're up against each other, than I am for them to be in a straight row right now, because that can be easily fixed. Okay, so I have the 4 colors, and then I'm going to go back down the bottom with these 3 top colors again. So I'm going to select it, pull it down, select it, pull it down, select it. And then just to make sure they are all even, I'm going to go ahead and select them all and come over here to my align, and I'm just going to hit this align center. There we go. That way we can just make sure. Now, like I said, if we were to make this brush is approximately like 3 inches tall at the moment. So if you were to use it, it's going to be pretty big if you use it on, you know, an 8.5 by 11 paper. So we're going to go ahead and shrink it down before we turn it into a brush. So I'm going to press and hold shift and just shrink the whole thing down together. And I'm going to go down to about this size. So about a 1 inch. Okay. Like I said, you could have just started off making this smaller. For me, it's easier to make it a little bit bigger and then shrink it down before I turn it into a brush. Okay, so I'm going to grab my selection tool. I have this selected. I'm going to move this right up here. It doesn't matter where it's at. I'm going to move it up and out of the way so I can use it as soon as I get it made. So I have it made. You're going to come over to your brushes panel, either right here on your panel bar, or if you have it up in your window. And all you have to do to turn it into a brush is simply click it and drag it and drop it into your brushes panel. And it's going to ask you some questions. So the first one is, what kind of brush do you want it to be? And you have what, 5 different options here. Because of the way we design this, it only gives us the options of scatter brush, art brush, and pattern brush. So the scatter brush would kind of make it go like a little bit everywhere. The art brush is going to be just kind of your basic brushes. The pattern brush is going to make it into more of a pattern whenever you're using it. So we're going to go with art brush for this one, and I'm going to hit OK. Then it's going to pop you into here and it's going to ask you some questions. So I'm going to name mine orange square because that's what it is. Okay. You can then adjust the width if you want it to, make changes to it. You can scale it proportionally. You can stretch it to fit. So these are the brush scale options. Stretch it to fit stroke length, or you can stretch between guides. We're going to do stretch to fit stroke length. Now down here on direction, this is kind of like, the best way I can explain it is, think of if you were writing with a fountain pen and you have that flat tip on that fountain pen. And then depending on how you curve your letters or turn with that pen is how this shape changes. So you can make it so that it works from left to right, or right to left, or top to bottom, or bottom to top. For this one, we're going to do left to right. You can mess with your colorization, your color key, and you can also flip this if you needed to, okay? So we have everything set the way we want it. I'm going to hit OK. It brings it back up here. Now I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my paintbrush. You could do the paintbrush. Actually, I'm going to unselect that first. You could grab your paintbrush. You could grab your pencil tool, anything that you're going to create that stroke with. You could even do it on a shape. But I'm going to grab the paintbrush for right now, and I'm just going to make a nice swerve with it, and you can see how the color works. So it kind of curves with the brush. And you can make changes to this just like you would with any of the brushes. You can change the size of it. So if you wanted to, you know, up your stroke, down your stroke. So, you know, here's a 3. You can see how much thicker it gets. You could go down a little bit. So let's go down to like a 1/2. And if I make the motion, you can see it gets much smaller. So it really works just like a paintbrush now, and you can do whatever you need to do with it to be able to create. If you have any questions, shoot me an email and I'll get you an answer.